She's not reaching out this time, not because she stopped loving him, but because she finally started loving herself more. Something inside her shifted, and it wasn't loud. It didn't come with rage or revenge. It came in a soft, soul-deep whisper that said, "You've waited long enough. It's time to return to you. It's time to stop holding the door open for someone who doesn't know how to walk through it." The divine feminine is no longer holding space for potential. She's no longer begging the universe to send him back. She's no longer crying over timelines that require her to shrink, to chase, to wait, because something sacred is rising in her now, a new strength, a quiet knowing, a fierce grace. And while he may still think he has time, while he may still feel her love and believe it will always be there waiting, he doesn't realize she's already gone in the energy. This isn't a game. This isn't punishment. This is the moment the feminine remembers who she is, without needing his reflection to confirm it. If you've been feeling this too, the desire to pull back, the peace in the silence, the release of needing closure, you're not abandoning the connection. You're allowing the true reunion to begin within. Because she didn't stop believing in love. She just stopped sacrificing herself for someone who wasn't ready to meet it. And this time, she's not coming back the same. She's not angry, not anymore. The storm that once lived inside her has quieted into something softer, something deeper. Not forgiveness for him necessarily, but a kind of sacred acceptance. She's no longer holding rage in her bones or waiting for closure that never comes. That version of her, the one who begged the universe to bring him back, who waited in silence, who broke herself trying to understand his distance, has dissolved. And in her place, something more powerful has emerged. She's not chasing anymore. She's not counting signs or rereading old messages, trying to decode if he still cares. She's not watching his silence and calling it a test from the universe. No, she's watching herself now. She's watching how her body responds to her own truth, how her nervous system calms when she stops reaching, how her energy expands when she lets go, how peace enters the room when she stops performing loyalty to a connection that asked her to hold everything, while he held nothing. This isn't bitterness. This isn't punishment. This is what it looks like when a woman reclaims her timeline. When she wakes up and realizes that love should never cost her self-respect. When she sees that waiting doesn't make love stronger, it just makes her smaller. And she's done shrinking. She's done bending into shapes just to fit his fears. She's done holding space in a temple he refuses to enter. The divine feminine is still loving, still open, still radiant, but her love is no longer aimless. It has boundaries now. It has direction. It moves in alignment, not longing. It flows where it's received, not where it's resisted. She no longer feels the need to prove her loyalty to someone who never even asked why she was crying in the dark. She understands now. Her silence is not empty. It's sacred. It's the sound of someone who has finally turned inward. It's the absence of force. It's the removal of pressure. It's the healing that happens when a woman stops performing worthiness for a man who hasn't yet claimed his own. And perhaps he still thinks he has time. Perhaps he believes her love will always wait, always circle back, always remain suspended in the unseen, holding him even when he can't show up. But what he doesn't know is that something irreversible has happened. She's not holding the thread anymore. She's not feeding the bond from her end. She's not standing at the door hoping it opens. She's walked through her own. This isn't the kind of goodbye that needs to be spoken. It's energetic. It's vibrational. It's quiet. And yet it echoes through dimensions. Because when the feminine lets go like this, with no drama, no announcement, no collapse, something shifts. Not just in her, in him, in the connection itself. It stops recycling the pain and starts clearing space for something real, for something honest, for something equal. She's not afraid of losing him anymore. She's more afraid of losing herself again. She knows what it feels like to be abandoned while showing up fully. She knows what it's like to pour light into someone who's too scared to receive it. And now, she refuses to do that to herself again. So she releases the timeline. She steps off the loop. She breaks the energetic contract that said, "I'll hold on no matter what." Because now, her soul is whispering something new. You've held on long enough. Now it's time to hold you. And still, she feels the love. Still, she remembers the beauty. Still, she honors the depth of what this connection awakened in her. But now, she carries that love differently. Not as a weight, not as a burden, but as a mirror. One that reflects not just who he was to her, but who she's become because of him. She's not angry. She's not cold. She's simply done performing devotion in the absence of reciprocity. Done waiting for someone else's awakening to validate her own. Done living in the pause, hoping for movement from someone who is never meant to be her source of momentum. And that, perhaps more than anything, is what finally sets her free. Why this isn't giving up? It's rising up. This isn't surrender the way the world defines it. This isn't weakness. This isn't resignation. This is power. Sacred, quiet, unshakable power. Because when the divine feminine lets go, truly lets go, it's not because she's given up on love. It's because she's no longer willing to abandon herself to keep it alive. There comes a moment when she looks around and realizes she's been waiting in a room with no doors. Not because he locked her there, but because she believed that if she stayed long enough, he would find his way back in. But what happens when your soul whispers, "It's not your job to keep waiting for someone who can't meet you here"? What happens when your own light starts pulling you away from what you used to chase? This moment, this shift, it's not giving up. It's rising up. It's stepping out of the illusion that love means endurance, that proving your devotion is what will finally make him ready, that holding space long enough will one day fix the gap between you. Have you ever felt like you were carrying the entire connection? Like you were loving for both of you? Praying for both of you? Healing not just your wounds, but his too? She has, and she's exhausted. This isn't about blame. The masculine's pain is real. His shadows are heavy, but she's realized healing him is not her assignment. Waiting for him is not her mission. She's not here to be a lighthouse that forgets to shine on her own path. This is the kind of rise that happens in silence. It doesn't scream. It doesn't post announcements. It doesn't ask for applause. It just chooses. It chooses the self, the soul, the higher timeline, the version of her that no longer negotiates her worth for breadcrumbs of attention. And yes, she still loves him. She always will. That love is eternal, but it's no longer needy, no longer willing to sacrifice her dignity just to feel close to him. because now her heart beats for something bigger, not just the connection, but the truth of the connection. And the truth is, it can't be union unless it's equal. It can't be love unless it's aligned. And it can't be real if it requires her to abandon herself. So she rises. She rises even while he sleeps. She rises even without apology. She rises even with tears on her pillow. Because something in her knows that the real reunion can only come after she stops betraying herself in the name of divine timing. What if letting go isn't losing the connection, but unlocking the version of it that's actually meant to survive? What if your silence isn't distance, but a sacred pause that finally gives him space to wake up? She isn't running. She isn't hiding. She's just done sitting in the in-between, done holding the timeline together with her energy, done begging the universe to make it easier. She's learned how to breathe on her own, and it's the most revolutionary thing she's ever done. Because real surrender doesn't come from defeat. It comes from knowing, from feeling in the deepest part of her chest that she doesn't have to hold anything anymore. Not his process, not the pain, not the story. She can let go and still be whole. She can let go and still love. She can let go and still walk forward with grace, with open hands, with the kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself. This is the rise of the divine feminine. Not against him, but for her. And in that choice, everything begins to change. He didn't expect it. He expected her to reach out again, to feel the silence and try to fill it, to sense the void between them, and rush to restore the bridge. Because that's what she always did before, not because she was desperate, but because she loved so completely, so vulnerably, so openly, that her heart couldn't stand the distance. But this time, it's different. This time, she didn't chase the absence. She didn't explain herself. She didn't ask if he was okay, or beg the connection to breathe again. She simply pulled her light back, not out of anger, but out of clarity. And the divine masculine, used to the warmth of her unwavering presence, feels something he's been avoiding for lifetimes. The truth of what it means to lose her energy. It's not the physical distance that breaks him. It's the absence of her soul's embrace. He no longer feels her anchoring him, no longer senses her spirit protecting him, no longer hears her energy calling his name in the ether while he sleeps. At first, he tries to brush it off, telling himself she's just tired, she'll be back, she always comes back. But as the days stretch into silence, as the field grows quieter, as the signs stop screaming and the dreams turn colder, he begins to realize this time, something sacred has shifted. She didn't close the door, but she walked through it, and he never followed. Have you ever wondered what happens to him when you stop trying? Have you asked yourself if your silence echoes in his soul the way his used to echo in yours? It does. More than you know. Because while the feminine moves through emotions, the masculine moves through delay. He buries his feelings, compartmentalizes, distracts. And by the time he feels the full weight of the absence, she's already been gone in spirit for a while. Now, in the void where her love used to live, he meets the mirror of his own resistance. He sees the parts of himself that feared showing up. The parts that thought he had forever. The parts that didn't believe he was worthy of the way she saw him. And in that silence, he begins to feel what she once felt. the ache of reaching out energetically and receiving no answer, the sting of presence fading into memory, the haunting beauty of a love that was always unconditional, but never guaranteed. He may not cry where anyone can see. He may not speak her name out loud. He may continue walking through life as if nothing's changed. But inside, something is unraveling. He feels the absence of her essence in his field. And for the first time, he misses the energy, not just the person. The late-night thoughts he used to dismiss, now they keep him awake. The songs he never noticed, now they hit deeper. The dreams he used to shake off in the morning, now they linger. Like whispers from a soul he didn't realize he needed to hear again. Do you feel him now? Not in longing, but in recognition? Can you sense that something in him has awakened in your absence? Because your silence is no longer a wound, it's a mirror. And he's starting to see what you saw all along. He's not immune to the loss. He's just late to the realization. And now that the energy has shifted, he's not just feeling the absence, he's beginning to question his own delay. Why did he wait so long to speak? Why did he hold back love that wanted to flow? Why did he treat a divine connection like it could be postponed? The answers won't come quickly. The masculine awakens slowly, but deeply. And now, that depth is cracking open. He's starting to feel the gravity of what she carried, the devotion, the forgiveness, the effort, the unconditional nature of a love he couldn't yet receive. But now, the silence is showing him what presence never could. She didn't leave because she stopped loving him. She left because she started loving herself more. And that truth, as gentle and soul-shaking as it is changing him. So if you've pulled back, if you've chosen peace over pressure, stillness over struggle, silence over seeking, know this, he hears it. Not with his ears, but with his soul. And the echo of that silence, it's the most honest conversation he's ever had with you. There is a kind of surrender that doesn't look like letting go. It looks like coming home. It's not the kind where she collapses in grief, not the one where she gives up because she's too tired to care. This surrender is sacred. It's conscious. It's powerful. It's the moment the divine feminine unhooks herself from a timeline that was only held together by her energy. The moment she steps back, not to abandon love, but to finally trust that love doesn't need to be carried alone. It happens quietly. No announcement, no final message, no loud declaration of freedom. Just her and her soul whispering truths to one another and agreeing that it's time. Time to stop negotiating with the universe. Time to stop begging fate for clarity. Time to stop gripping the thread of a bond that's been pulling her out of alignment. She doesn't hate him. She doesn't resent the journey. But she knows now, if she keeps anchoring herself to a connection that refuses to root, she'll never grow the wings her own destiny needs. So she surrenders, not to the masculine, not to the pain, but to the flow of what's true. Can you feel that moment in your own journey? The one where you no longer feel the need to hold on to hope like it's your lifeline, because you've realized you are your own lifeline? It doesn't mean she doesn't love him anymore. She does. That love doesn't disappear. It just transforms. It stops being about reunion and starts being about freedom, her own. She no longer walks through her days waiting for signs. She no longer holds back her joy. thinking she must stay small in case he returns. She no longer makes decisions based on a future that hasn't arrived. She steps fully into this moment. And in doing so, she frees every version of herself that ever waited in the shadows. Because surrender is not about giving up on him. It's about no longer betraying herself. She lets go of the old agreements, the ones that said she must hold space endlessly, the ones that told her love means suffering, the ones that made her responsible for awakening a man who's still learning to hear his own soul. What if you could stop carrying timelines that were never yours to maintain? What if letting go didn't mean the end of the story, but the start of a higher one? This is what she's learning now. That when she releases the need to control how it all unfolds, life begins to respond. The energy shifts. Her body feels lighter. Opportunities open. New connections stir. And somewhere deep within the masculine's field, a space that had long been blocked begins to crack open too. Because her surrender is not passive. It's catalytic. It sends ripples through the bond. And he feels it. Maybe not immediately, maybe not with clarity, but suddenly her silence no longer feels like absence. It feels like truth. And in that void, he has to face something he's avoided all along. His own soul, his own longing, his own failure to choose what was always choosing him. She's not watching anymore. She's not waiting to see if he shows up. She's not shaping her life around the possibility of return. She's surrendered the outcome, and in doing so, she's activated something far more divine. A life that no longer needs his presence to be meaningful. A love that doesn't beg to be seen. A heart that doesn't hide in timelines that refuse to land. Have you ever surrendered without closing your heart? Have you ever chosen your path without punishing theirs? That's what she's done. And because of that, she's free. Not detached, not cynical, just free. Free to grow. Free to love without waiting. Free to evolve without dragging the past. Free to walk the earth as the embodied, whole, sovereign version of who she was always meant to be. And if he ever returns, truly, fully awakened, she'll meet him not as the girl who waited, but as the woman who rose. She doesn't look the same. She doesn't sound the same. She doesn't feel the same, not even to herself, because something has changed, something irreversible, something sacred. A new feminine is emerging, not born from pain, but risen through it. She is not who she was when the journey began. She no longer craves what she once did. She no longer tolerates what she once allowed. She no longer believes she must wait, shrink, soften, or ache to be worthy of love. This version of her isn't hardened. She's clear. She's not bitter. She's embodied. She's not seeking. She's sovereign. And what's awakening within her now cannot be undone. Can you feel that version of you rising too? The one who no longer waits for permission to take up space? The one who doesn't confuse silence with devotion? The one who walks forward without needing closure, because her peace is closure enough? This isn't about being stronger than him. It's not about walking away in defiance. It's about becoming the version of herself that no longer bends backward to hold a future that hasn't arrived. She has stopped living for a timeline, stopped chasing synchronicities like they're promises, stopped shaping her emotions to fit someone else's awakening speed. Now she walks from the center, from her womb, from her knowing, from her divine connection to Source, which was never dependent on who came back, only on who she became. She's still tender, still soft, still radiant in her love. But it's no longer scattered, no longer bleeding from open wounds, no longer waiting to be received before it feels real. She gives from overflow, not survival. She loves from wholeness, not need. She creates from vision, not desperation. And because of this, the energy around her begins to respond. Doors open, people shift. Timelines rearrange themselves around her frequency. Because she's no longer reacting, she's commanding. Not from ego, but from embodiment. This new feminine doesn't just talk about healing, she is the healing. Have you noticed how people look at you differently now? How you're no longer invisible when you stop chasing energy? How your silence speaks louder than your devotion ever did? That's not an accident. That's alchemy. She's becoming a mirror now, a walking transmission, a presence that activates others without trying, simply by existing in her own truth. She doesn't need to convince anyone of her worth. She doesn't need to explain why she pulled back. She doesn't even need him to come back. Because the reunion that matters most is the one between her and her own soul. And she's in it, fully, finally. She's no longer operating from the maiden who aches to be chosen. She's moving from the queen, from the oracle, from the divine feminine that knows her power is not in how much she can hold, but in how deeply she can let go. The world will not know what to do with her at first, neither will he. Because the version of her they once knew, she was beautiful, yes, but this version is undeniable. And when the masculine returns, if he does, he won't be met by the same woman who once waited for his voice. He'll meet the feminine who became her own voice, her own validation, her own mirror of divinity. And that meeting, if it comes, will only happen at the level of truth. Because she no longer aligns with potential, only presence, only devotion, only real, anchored, embodied union. The new feminine is not interested in half love. She doesn't orbit wounded timelines. She doesn't lower her frequency to be understood. She rises and lets everything that's real rise with her. And if it doesn't, she lets it fall. Because the old her would have tried to hold everything, but the new her, she holds only what holds her back. She still loves him. But it's no longer the kind of love that waits in silence. No longer the kind that withholds her breath every time the phone doesn't ring. No longer the kind that sacrifices her peace for the chance of maybe someday. She still loves him. But now, it's from a place that no longer aches. That love has matured. It's softened. It's expanded. It's wrapped itself around the parts of her that once shattered because he didn't come. And now, instead of holding her hostage, that love holds her steady. She loves him with the wisdom of someone who knows that souls connect for reasons far beyond romance. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do with a connection is release it from your expectations. Have you ever felt that kind of shift? Where the grief starts to dissolve, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring for you more? She doesn't carry resentment in her chest. She doesn't replay the pain. She doesn't wear the story like a scar across her soul. Instead, she honors it. all of it. The magic, the mess, the mirrors, the miracles. Because even though it broke her open, it also showed her what her heart is made of. And for that, she will always love him. But now, she loves him differently. She no longer wants to be rescued. She no longer needs to be chosen. She's already chosen herself. She no longer sees his silence as rejection. She has it as redirection. Back to her own voice, her own knowing, her own center. She loves him enough to let him go. To let him find his own path. To let him meet his own pain without her holding it for him. Because that's what real love does. It doesn't cling. It doesn't trap. It doesn't ask for sacrifice in exchange for presence. Real love liberates. And if he ever returns, he won't find the girl who once begged the stars to send him back. He'll meet the woman who became a galaxy in his absence, a woman who no longer believes love is proven by how long you can wait, but by how deeply you can transform. And she has. Oh, how she has. She's no longer stuck in the story. She's become the author, the creator, the embodiment of the very love she once searched for in him. Do you still love him? Even now? Even without the future you once envisioned? If the answer is yes, that's okay. Because the feminine never stops loving. She just learns to love in ways that no longer cost her herself. Now, when she feels him in the field, she smiles gently, not with longing, with peace. Because that thread between them is still there, but it no longer binds her. It blesses her. She still loves him, just not with the ache of waiting, not with the wound of absence, not with the hope that someday he'll see. She loves him with gratitude, with distance, with trust, with the full knowing that what's real will always return. But if it doesn't, it's still real. Because love doesn't need to be possessed to be eternal. It just needs to be honored. And now, that's all she's doing. Loving him in silence, loving herself in fullness, and loving this journey for everything it woke up in her.